talked at length about the film Event Horizon on this channel. But did you know that there was a prequel? In this video, we're gonna talk just about that, Event Horizon, Dark Descent. Let's get to it.
I'm waiting.
When I think of cosmic horror, I regard the Event Horizon storyline in the same breath as Lovecraft because the otherworldly mystery just gets to you. The original movie explored the story with a subtlety that was actually terrifying because it did not explain a lot of things. This time around, there's a comic book narrative that acts as the missing piece of the puzzle. Event Horizon Dark Descent serves as a prequel to the movie, and we finally get the clear insights to what really happened with the crew of the revolutionary spaceship Event Horizon. It was designed for one mission, which was to travel faster than light. And while the experimental gravity drive made it possible, the results were unexpected, with demonic forces like Paimon intervening. Nah, I think I have teased with the concept just about enough, and I'll dive right in to elaborate on the entire comic book story in this video. If you made it this far into the video, I'm assuming that you are well versed with the movie Event Horizon. That was one of the late 90s films that became a cult classic. For those of you who need some reminding, the story of the film followed a crew of astronauts in the year 2047. They are sent on a rescue mission after the Event Horizon, which went missing 7 years earlier, reappeared in the orbit around Neptune. Of course, it soon becomes a descent into madness and unexplained terror as the rescue team find themselves dealing with a cosmic threat that they don't understand while unwrapping the mystery of Event Horizon. The comic series takes you on a journey into the lives of the original crew of the Event Horizon. It shows a disturbing combination of past trauma and guilt of the crew members and how they are used to break them down when a tryst with futuristic technology goes horribly wrong. Do you remember Dr. William Weir? The one who designed the Event Horizon and featured in the movie as a part of the rescue team? Well, he plays a key role in the comic series, and this is where the story starts off. The first issue opens up 10 months to the jump point, when the ill-fated spaceship made a move toward the future of humanity, only to enter into a hellish realm. Dr. Weir is shown mourning the loss of his wife. He realizes that even though he had always been a man of science, he now finds himself consumed by hell after the death of his wife Claire. He now knows that hell is the void left behind by loved ones. And while he has to endure this pain, he does not shy away from work. When a general offers him some time to mourn Claire, he refuses outright, saying that he would be back to complete the gravity drive on schedule. He even claims to have solved the problems that they have been having with the overload, and you don't have to worry, because I'll explain the concept of the gravity drive shortly. What I find really disturbing at this point in the narrative is just how cold Dr. Weir has become. Also, the solution to his problem of overload came to him through some strange dreams, and the artwork gives a quick glimpse of a bloodied and mutilated image of Claire calling out to him. Now, it's time for you to be introduced to the original crew who are en route to execute the gravity drive jump point. It's now a day away, and we get the first look of the crew who are on board the Event Horizon. Two women members are having a conversation, and one of them is talking about her guilt. Apparently, she could have saved her twin sister, and the other one, named Nia, comforts her by saying that it really wasn't her fault. The one with the guilt about her twin sister is quantum physicist Dr. Jennifer, and she is on board because she loves the subject and her skills are invaluable in executing this new technology properly. I love how the comic series adds more about the crew members so that we have enough context. For instance, Dr. Jennifer Kwan wanted to leave Earth following the death of her twin sister, but the guilt still consumes her. She reminds Nia that they are approaching the jump point soon, and that the gravity drive will be engaged. Basically, the concept is to fold time in a way that a singularity is created. This is like puncturing a hole for the Event Horizon to pass through, and the evolutionary idea reduces a journey of thousands of kilometers to a minimal Sunday drive. Dr. Kwan is supposed to monitor and record the quantum effects of the jump on the ship and on the crew members as well. The story then moves to another crew member, Lieutenant Sarah Sang from China, who is fleeing an abusive partner. Next up, you have Dr. Peter Ajel from Nigeria, who is the ship's physician, but he is terminally ill himself, suffering from cancer. He hasn't told anyone on board about his condition, and he will be monitoring everyone's vitals as they progress, because nobody knows for sure what really happens when the human body travels through folded space. We are then introduced to the captain of the ship, John Kilpack from the United Kingdom, who happens to be a devout Christian. The early information that we get about him is that he grew up with his father always disappointed in him, something that troubles him even now that his father is long dead. He seems like a spirited man as of now, but the madness drive hasn't even started yet. Yusuf Quinn from Turkey is the chief engineer of the ship, and he is great at fixing things. His frustration comes from the fact that he cannot fix people, almost like a disgruntled Terminator. He reports on the whereabouts of the ship and confirms that everything is going according to the plan. The ship navigator, Devlin Connors, is from Australia, and even he has a secret. As it turns out, everyone on board is either running from something on Earth or has deeply disturbing issues that haven't been completely dealt with yet. Clearly, this is not the kind of group you want in such a scenario. Well, enough peacetime, because the chaos is about to be hurled right back at ya. It all starts 4 hours before the scheduled jump, when the gravity drive is almost 70% online. Nia spots something that leaves her extremely rattled. She learns that Devlin Connors is being hunted by Victoria police, and to her horror, he appears right behind her as she reads on about his crimes. He complains it was an accident, but Nia suggests that she would have to follow protocol and report her findings to the captain. But Devlin is not prepared to face any kind of punishment, because he claims that the whole thing was only an accident. He is so triggered by this that he snaps Nia's neck and kills her instantly. I find it almost funny that a crew member dies even before the arrival of the actual evil. Meanwhile, the captain continues with an inspiring speech to motivate the crew members about this new step for humanity that they are a part of. He last reaches out to General Anderson 1 hour before the jump, and the latter informs him that systems are green, and they are cleared to execute the launch in 60 minutes. Something just doesn't feel right to me, especially with Dr. Weir's hallucinations, and his regrets making this futuristic step doomed from the very beginning. He even admits that even though he never spent much time thinking of heaven, he is now consumed by hell. And so, the first issue ends with the disturbing sight of his dead wife, and then there's a quick artwork of Paimon, the demon from hell, who has been made to look like a deformed and terrifying version of Groot. Obviously, Dr. Weir's dead wife is now the one calling out to him in his dreams with solutions to his technical problems. So, who is this and why? The second issue begins with Devlin's backstory as a young boy in Australia who grew up with a rather abusive father. He got beaten up so badly that he soon learned how to avoid the painful blows, and he applied this to his life as well. It becomes clear that a harsh childhood, followed by an accidental event from his past that left a child dead, has caused him great distress, and he is far from being mentally stable. Back on the ship after the jump, the crew realizes the gravity drive didn't just send them somewhere. The ship feels wrong. Systems aren't behaving right, and the people start cracking under the pressure. Quinn investigates the drive and starts suspecting something horrifying. The technology feels organic, like it's breathing, like it can sleep and wake. Then the series drops its main monster into the room, Paimon, represented as an ancient ruler of this hell realm, the Chaos realm that they've blundered into. Paimon's first big move is simple and nasty. He starts ordering the crew into self-destruction, including forcing Quinn toward a gruesome act of self-harm. Meanwhile, Quan is trying to locate crew members and finds a blood trail. It leads her to a nightmare. Nia is dead, and Devlin is there, shaken and remorseful, talking about how he didn't mean to kill him, meaning the boy from his past. That guilt opens the door for hallucinations, or entities, to appear, and warn that Devlin might not stop at one death. The vibe by the end of issue 2 is basically that the ship is being hunted and played with. Also, I love how the color palette of the comic series changes so drastically after the jump into the hellish realm, and it seems like everything has turned into a shade of bloody red. I'm also a huge fan of how Paimon first appears. Quinn is just trying to make sense of what has gone wrong, and he experiences a horrible and brutal sight of blood and gore. He says that he feels like something is coming, and in walks the mighty Paimon from a portal-like opening. His first lines are absolutely chilling and fitting of a demon of his stature, when he says, "Good, you're already on your knees." Quinn stands there perplexed and clueless, and it is a terrible sight when he is made to hold a screwdriver and jab it in his eyes. Paimon introduces himself by saying that someone on the ship calls him the King of Hell, and I am sure he is indicating toward the religious captain of the ship. Now, with Quinn gone, there is no chance of the ship getting fixed, and the sense of doom and helplessness dawns on me. So, by the end of issue 2, the crew has learned 3 brutal rules. Hell is real enough to leave bodies, guilt is a doorway, and something intelligent is actively steering the suffering. Issue 3 opens by revealing what Dr. Ed J had been hiding all along: terminal cancer, a diagnosis he lied about because the mission was his once-in-a-lifetime chance to see something extraordinary before time ran out. And the tragic irony is that he absolutely did get to see something extraordinary. It's just the worst view imaginable. But I also noticed here that he is a rational man who doesn't have an abnormal fear of death. He understands the disease and knows the consequences, and his only wish is to overcome the burden of death with something extraordinary. The ship is now in full collapse with panic, screams, scattered survivors, and Captain Killpack barricades himself on the bridge like a man trying to hold reality together with his hands. He inventories the situation in the coldest terms possible. The communication system is down, no clear ability to transmit, the clocks have stopped, the chief engineer is dead, the gravity drive is offline, and something stepped out of it. I think what makes it worse is that he's also hallucinating his dead father, and he has no reliable word on where Quan and Connors are. At this point, it feels like the ship had slid outside ordinary time. Like it's not just lost in space, it's lost in the rules of the universe. He is still a dutiful captain who sends out a message to be read by whoever picks it up. He reveals that they did not manage to jump to the preordained coordinates, and instead, they landed somewhere else, which he describes as the place of dread. He also transmits the message that the chief engineer Yusef Quinn is dead. For me, the most chilling part of the message is that when he says that something is inside the ship with them and they are not alone, which only officially confirms the threat that Paimon is about to unleash. Quan, after discovering Connor's murdered Nia, runs. Because what else can anyone do when the threat is both human and supernatural, and she eventually reunites with other survivors, including Song and Ajay, while the ship around them becomes increasingly grotesque, like the architecture is being rewritten into a nightmare. Connors, meanwhile, is being led, and he follows the boy he killed deeper into the ship, deeper into the nightmare, like the realm is dragging him by his guilt straight to the throne room, and that's exactly what happens. Connors reaches Paimon, and Paimon makes it clear that Hell has a special place for him, but not yet, because Paimon wants Connors useful first, like guilt can be turned into a tool as easily as it can be turned into a punishment. Now here's the part where the survivors try to do the one smart practical thing available: fight the supernatural with physics. They realize that whatever entities are on board, they still exist in a way that can be moved, trapped, and expelled. So Ajay proposes a plan to suit up and blow an airlock, venting the creature into open space. I know this sounds ridiculous and it's a desperate move, but desperation is all that's left. And Killpack actually approves it, because at least it's action instead of waiting to be harvested. Ajay gets the suit mostly on. The entity closes in, and he stares it down as he follows through anyway, completing the plan at the cost of his life. It's like getting pulled out into the void without a helmet, a sacrifice that buys the ship a moment but doesn't restore hope, because Paimon isn't some loose animal you can eject. Paimon is the rule set of the place you've entered. Killpack witnesses Ajay's death and doesn't even have time to mourn before Paimon shows up to him like a final appointment, telling him the crew is dead and that the captain is next. And by the end of issue 3, the story has essentially narrowed from crew survival to captain's reckoning. Now, I won't lie to you, I did not really like this bit. I mean, the whole plan to split the ship in two and escaping in one part was rather smart and deserved to be explored in more detail. Nevertheless, the artwork here is particularly stunning when Paimon takes down the crew members in the most bloody and brutal ways that you have ever seen in comic books. The demon's interaction with the captain is also extremely eerie, as Paimon jokes about the plan of locking him out with a simple door. Issue number 4 takes that reckoning deeply personal by showing the memory that forged Killpack, a childhood piano lesson, a single mistake, and his father's ruler cracking down on his hands with one command. Again, training him to believe that control comes from repetition, that mistakes deserve pain, that order must be enforced at any cost, and Paimon sees that formative wound and uses it like a key. At this point, the ship's horror becomes less about jump scares and more about humiliation and spiritual desecration. Paimon turns Killpack's faith into something small, makes his god feel distant, makes his moral certainty feel useless, and forces him to witness the crew's degradation. The entire plan of Paimon is designed to play with his prey like a twisted game. The captain has the responsibility of all the lives on board, and when he is totally powerless to do anything about saving them, Paimon breaks him down by parading the dead crew members in front of him. The mutilated walking corpses cry out for help to the captain as they tear themselves apart, and it is a ghastly sight as the page turns red with blood and flesh. The crew brought to him are stripped down, compelled into acts of self-harm and cruelty, as if the ship has become an altar and the suffering is the ritual. And it's not just Paimon doing this alone. The comic introduces Paimon's servant as something nightmarishly symbolic, a demonic wheel that grows as it absorbs people, adding bodies into a writhing mass, like a literal machine made of victims that rolls forward by consuming more of them, turning the crew into components. This issue is also where the comic leans into explaining the film's infamous bloody orgy backstory in its own way, presenting the catastrophe not as a vague off-screen rumor, but as the logical endpoint of Paimon's agenda: reduce humans to raw impulses. I think one of the masterstrokes of Paimon is when the Demon King uses the bruised childhood of the captain against him along with his sexuality. There is a scene from his past that suggests that the captain had a male romantic partner when he was young, and Paimon ridicules him about this, knowing fully well that such practices are forbidden for those who are extremely religious. Killpack is pinned to his command chair in the most perverse inversion of leadership. He can't lead, can't rescue, can't even look away forever. So he does the only thing that still feels like captaining in a universe that has stopped listening. He manages to send out a warning transmission into the darkness, a message that basically says, if anyone can hear this, it may already be too late, ending with the iconic Latin phrase, libera te tutamet ex infernis. Save yourself from hell, the same writing that will later be recovered in the film's timeline. And when Killpack's fate is sealed, the story's tone here isn't, maybe he'll escape, it's, this is how the ship becomes what it becomes. And the captain's suffering is portrayed as one more ingredient in the Event Horizon's transformation from vessel to predator. By issue 5, the comic shifts gears in a way that almost feels like a deep breath right before drowning. It centers on the last two survivors, Quan and Song, and it opens with a striking visual idea: cells dividing in the womb, tying directly into Quan's identity as a twin. And then it flashes to 4 hours before the jump, showing Quan and Song talking like normal people on the edge of an impossible mission, each carrying dark truths they've tried to keep packed away. Song has had enough of the abuse, and she has killed her husband Ben, and she guesses that the police must have found the body by now. She doesn't regret her actions, but she wants to prove how strong she really is, and she also has nothing worth returning for. The present, though, is pure aftermath. The ship is a slaughterhouse gallery of what happened in the earlier issues. The captain is still there, even though he's bloodied and helpless. But he makes one thing clear for his surviving crew members: the demon cannot be allowed to return to Earth. Thus, they must destroy the gravity drive and the Event Horizon. So Quan and Song aren't just trying to survive, they're trying to end the nightmare in the only way that matters: destroy the gravity drive, because if the drive is the doorway, then killing the doorway is the closest thing to winning. And here is where the story gets interactive, in the sense that every choice feels like a fork with knives on both paths. Do they move together or split up? Do they conserve oxygen or sprint? The drive room is both a destination and a trap, because Paimon is still in control of the environment, and the ship's horrors are no longer purely psychological. Some of what attacks them is bluntly physical, like the realm has decided subtlety isn't required anymore. Song's personal nightmare becomes violently literal. Her abusive husband manifests not as one symbolic apparition, but as multiple copies, and she fights them off with desperate brutality, stacking bodies with the exhausted logic of someone who knows that mercy won't be returned. Quan's trauma, her twin, her grief, and her sense of incompleteness becomes the axis for the finale's weirdest curveball. The comic introduces a mysterious angelic presence, something that feels like light intruding into the red-black hellscape, and whatever it is, it disrupts the expected rhythm of the story, offering Quan a moment that reads less like torture and more like intervention. That shift leads to an ending that I find rather unexpected and almost jarring compared to the relentless horror before it. But thematically, it still locks into what the series has been doing. In the climactic struggle around the drive, the aim is clear even if every detail is a blur of panic and blood. If Paimon can be hurt, it's by breaking the machine that lets Paimon reach through. If the ship can be stopped, it's by ruining the heart that makes it travel. But the nightmare doesn't end cleanly with a heroic and then they blew it up. Instead, the story pivots into an epilogue that snaps the comic into the film's established lore in a very direct way. Paimon, having effectively won, reassembles the event horizon as if putting a model kit back together, and the scattered remains are arranged into place, as though hell isn't just killing people, it's staging a scene for whoever comes next. The final issue is emotionally rich, as we see Kwan's whole backstory and how she had a fight with her sister over a man she didn't even love. Then her sister got really sick, but Kwan was so busy with work that she barely had time to look after her. I guess finally it's all catching up with them all. The guilt of all their work and life before is coming together with a twisted fate. Paimon comes down on them with a chilling final act. Your God can't help you now, but God or not, something does help Kwan to fight back. It seems like the angelic spirit of her deceased sister, and the distraction buys her enough time to trigger an explosion. It serves as a deterrent for Paimon for a while, even though his evil will find a way to humanity once again in the movie, as we all know. Finally, the narrative circles back to Dr. Weir in a way that makes the whole miniseries feel like a trap closing. Weir's visions of Claire return, calling him onward, inviting him to come find her, implying that the corruption didn't begin after the event horizon vanished. It may have been leaning into Weir long before the jump, using grief as the first crack in the foundation. I really like the ending, and how the ship is reset and positioned to become the haunted predator that the film's rescue mission will later find. The best part is that it means the real victory isn't survival, it's the fact that anyone on Earth even gets a warning at all. And that tells you everything you need to know about how terrifying the situation really is. Well, it's a good thing that you know what happens after all, isn't it? The horrors of the event horizon come back to haunt humanity one more time through the rescue team that comes face to face with the aftermath of this massacre. It has been revealed that a sequel series titled Event Horizon Inferno will be released in April 2026, and this will see a story 200 years after the events of the original film. Personally, I would have a tough time picking between the comic book and the OG film, and maybe I lean toward the latter. Also, the fact that the comic book gives a physical form to the terror that leaves a bloody trail takes away a lot of the mystery element. But make no mistake when I say that the comic series is memorable and a fun read, especially if you have a stomach for all the gore and bloodshed that vividly comes out through the artwork. As of now, I'm all geared up for Event Horizon Inferno, and my expectations are pretty high from this one. Let us know in the comments below what you think of this comic series, and also share your thoughts on the nature of this cosmic horror and what follows into the next movie. What do you think will be the basic narrative of Event Horizon Inferno?